Hey, Space Chain community. I'm Z from Space Chain. Today I'm with Kevin. Introduce yourself.
Hello, Space Chain. My name's Kevin Bate, and I'm the CEO of Jenga Advisors, and I'm also a partner at Delta Strategy Group, and I work in blockchain, and I specifically work on regulatory strategy and helping blockchain companies and token projects comply with regulation in the U.S. and overseas and a lot of different jurisdictions. And my specialty focus as of late has really been on partnering token projects with exchanges.
Oh, that is awesome. And yeah, I'm very glad to get a chance to interview with you. And we collect a lot of questions regarding the directory issue, and I hope you can use your expertise and have some share what you think. So the first question being, could you just give us kind of like global overview about the directory issue regarding the cryptocurrency, especially in the US, and also I know you travel a lot, and just general overview.
Sure. So I think the regulatory landscape in the United States in particular has been particularly difficult for blockchain companies. And we work with a lot of companies, both what I'd call legacy businesses, so businesses that were around before blockchain that are looking into incorporating blockchain into their business, and then also new businesses, blockchain-based businesses. We also work with exchanges, both regulated, derivatives like futures and derivatives exchanges, stock exchanges, but also with spot digital asset exchanges, companies like Bittrex. And the regulatory environment has evolved. It started off with, I'd say, 2014, 2015, we had the the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, basically come out and plant a flag in the ground and say Bitcoin is a commodity. And that was actually a good thing because the CFTC is a pretty market-focused regulator, and they typically try to foster innovation and encourage companies to innovate, and they try not to put too many rules around things. They're more of a principle-based regulator. So they, generally speaking, we want you to work in this manner, but we'll leave it up to you to figure out how to comply with those higher level principles. But then came the SEC, and the SEC is a great regulator, but they have been much more prescriptive in how, especially with respect to token projects, how companies operate in the regulated space, and the real friction has been between projects that want to issue what we've in the past called a utility token or a non-security token, and the SEC's view of what is and what is not a security. And this is something that people have talked about for a long time. I think we started off with the chairman of the SEC, Jay Clayton, saying, I've not seen a token that's not a security. Okay. And that created a lot of problems for people because there's a genuine belief in the blockchain space that not everything that's a token is a security, certainly not Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And so the SEC kind of backed off of that, and we had the director of a division at the SEC say that Ether was not a security, so that was sort of a positive movement. But the SEC very recently released some guidance, and it talked about the types of things that would make something a security versus a non-security token. And
just one, sorry.
Is that
kind of
stop here? I'll just keep talking.
Is it one more step than the Howey test? Then it's like one more kind of more detailed guidance.
Well, so that's a great question. So yes, the SEC in their most recent publication, they sort of talk about the Howey test. They talk about digital assets, tokens. And then they give a series of different factors that one should consider in trying to determine if the token is a security or not. But it's and there are some factors that they say would lead one to believe the presence of these factors would weigh in favor of the token not being a security. But there are a lot of factors that they say would weigh in favor of something being a security, and the factors that they use, in my humble opinion, are not all relevant, and they're certainly not all based on the original Howey test or current law. I mean, I think the SEC is pushing the boundaries a bit and being very aggressive.
Yeah. So regarding that, because one of the things I talked to many other founders and also teams One thing I found is really interesting is that all those regulations you mentioned is about SEC and CFTC, they're U.S. regulations,
Yes.
right? But for blockchain business,
Global.
it's like it's impossible to set up a local blockchain.
That's right.
It's like, yeah. So, like, what do you think the biggest challenge for, like, for example, Asian project or Europe project
Yeah.
coming to U.S. market, or
Well,
yeah,
I mean, it's interesting. It's almost not a challenge because these projects we have a lot of projects that are based out of Singapore, China, Korea, all over Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, and they just don't do business in the United States. We're not advising them really on U.S. regulation. They've made a business decision to stay out of the U.S., not have contact with U.S. people because the regulations are inhospitable. They don't really work, and they've got better regulatory environments in Europe. In Singapore, and lots of different parts of Asia. So I feel like the United States is sort of losing out on some of the innovation.
yeah. I feel like it's just like a balance because at the same time, like for example, like a lot of Asian countries, they're not sure, so they're like, you do what you want. It's kind of gray area.
Yeah.
Then we kind of figure out together. So it's like a lot of flexibility. At the same time, it's lack of like regulatory guidance.
Lack of clarity is always going to be will always stifle business. Lack of regulation will always stifle business innovation. But if you have a regulator who is giving the signals to the industry, to the community that they will work with you to figure it out, as opposed to sue you and create regulation by enforcement, then you're going to have a better, kind of outcome. You're going to have the industry helping to educate the regulator to get to a good place. It may not be where business wants it to be, but it'll be something that's workable. And I think there, as you said, countries in Asia and Europe that are working on that. And I think it's not too late for the United States. There are things like the CFTC, Lab CFTC, where they're, and the SEC for that matter has, a group that's set up for outreach and to interact with projects to learn more about them and sort of make themselves smarter regulators. So I mean, those are all positive things.
Yeah, that's great. Because I know you're advising many like Asian projects, also like European projects.
Mm-hmm.
So what's kind of the most common like question or the common issue they can raise when you're advising them?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it depends on the project and it depends on the jurisdiction.
Yeah.
If you want to, list a project or have a project that's active in the United States, then you really need to be thinking and focused on the utility of your token. And so a lot of what we talk about with projects is kind of what is the functionality of the underlying token? How do you use it within your ecosystem? And what rights, if any, does it bestow on token holders? And you've really got to do an analysis, and we always encourage folks to get legal counsel as well to kind of guide them through that. But so a lot of it focuses around utility of the token, and then even if you're not looking at sort of the U.S., you're in some other jurisdiction, you still want to be mindful of like good disclosure, the economics of the token. Is this a fair way of getting your community involved in the project, or is this just a money grab? And we obviously stay away from those types of projects.
Oh yeah. Thanks for that. I mean, how long have you been like doing this, and how like, and it's like I know you have been like regulator and you have been like a lawyer, also like strategy advisor, something like that. So it's like, how long have you been doing this, and what have you been experienced working on with different projects or person?
Yeah, I mean, I started off as a lawyer and worked in a large international law firm, and then I spent 12 years as a regulator, and part of that was with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and part of that was with the UK Financial Services Authority. I also worked on Capitol Hill in the Senate for a couple of years doing some most of my work was around derivatives regulation, so regulation of futures and options and derivatives. But 2012, I sort of personally got interested in Bitcoin, really, just reading about it in 2013, and then in 2014, when I joined my current firm, Delta Strategy Group, we had a lot of clients that were struggling, where they were really interested in blockchain, but they're struggling with how to navigate the regulation. And so that's really where we started getting busy and involved. And we've worked with companies like Bittrex, Bitfury, Block, all the Bs. Obviously, one of my favorite, Space Chain, which is actually, it's kind of amazing when you think about the fact that there are blockchain nodes in space over our heads right now, or maybe over Australia. I don't know where they are, but what you guys are doing. But this is why I love this. You learn something every day. You work with amazing, interesting people who are actually trying to change the world, and that's very satisfying.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Actually, because we're in space and we want to provide global coverage and decentralized infrastructure, a lot of question we got from the community on our partners about legal issue.
Mm-hmm.
How does for example, a decentralized infrastructure directly, facing the centralized, legal system? So we must have a lot of we are advising many projects. We all probably have this kind of issue. What's kind of your view on this kind of stuff? Because decentralized is, infrastructure, software versus centralized government or centralized.
I think that people oftentimes look at blockchain and I'll talk by analogy. Security tokens, okay? Digital securities. People are saying, well, how is that going to work? And there's already a complex, well-established legal system that deals with how you issue securities, how you trade securities, how you structure securities, and that's true of the United States. It's true of Europe. It's true of Asia. And so it's something that already exists, just in a slightly different form. It's digital instead of paper. So we don't need to reinvent the legal system to address security tokens. And likewise, I will obviously agree that decentralized space infrastructure is new and innovative, and that's not something that's around. But the contracts between parties that are using the infrastructure, and there is an established body of law, be it space law, contract law, that already exists. So I don't think it's that novel. There are going to be some narrow, novel legal issues that need to be addressed, but I think 90% of what you're doing could be pretty well navigated under existing international or law. So.
Yeah, I really like the word you're using is navigate, because it's the advantage having advisor and also ours you is when I encounter a certain issue, I would be this is what happened, help me figure it out, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think you take it issue by issue, and if there's a particular issue that's thorny, then maybe you need to go and work with a local regulator or body to get some clarity. But most of this stuff is actually not, from a legal standpoint, new.
Yeah, I feel also this case is also happening with the security token offering.
Yeah,
is that a lot of I would say traditional kind of security trading law also applies that, but also it gives some flexibility for the issue.
Well, security law is a great example. 90% of what a digital security is covered by current law, and I think a couple of areas where we're seeing a little bit of need for some regulatory clarity is on how you custody and transfer those digital securities. There's a well-trod path for paper securities. There are people who are custodians. They physically hold the securities in a vault or something. And then there's transfers agents who transfer them from one party to another. They record it in the ledger. Blockchain really gets rid of the need for those two things because it can be done on a digital ledger that's decentralized, and they can be transferred electronically. So that's a one little narrow part of security token trading that needs to get resolved, and the SEC is working on it, and it is largely resolved. But the other 99% of what you need to know for a security token is already in the books.
Yeah.
So it's a good.
It's kind of interesting because I think it was just last month we were at DC together. We attended, hosted by the Chamber of Digital Commerce, the commissioner of SEC, the chairman of CFTC, treasurer, department. They all actually came here and talked to those people, saying, "Oh, we're open about it. Like, let us know what you're doing." I feel like the attitude it's really great to actually see those people because only a couple of years ago, I think when you got interested in blockchain, it was this like internet money that geeks play around with. So now
2012, and even into 2014, and that's part of the work of the Chamber of Digital Commerce, right? Like people just thought of this as like drug dealer, terrorist, money, and it took a long time for folks like Perry Ann and the Chamber of Digital Commerce to educate folks on, and we spent a lot of time on this Delta Strategy Group, to educate people on the Hill and educate people in the agencies to say that there's a lot of potential innovation here, but if we, cut this out of our country, then we're going to lose that innovation. It'll happen, it just won't happen here. So.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thanks for everything. And just one last question. I would like to hear what do you think the blockchain industry in like 5 years? What's going to happen? Like, what's kind of
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, but I hope there'll be more space chain satellites in space. I know there will be more space chain satellites in space. But actually, what I'm hoping for is some really good, and I've seen this in talking to our clients. I'm excited about it. Real applicable, everyday use applications that are run on blockchain and that are run seamlessly so that you don't really know that they're run on blockchain. I think that's, the one thing I think that's happened in our industry is we've had this big hype cycle and not a lot of actual delivery of applications or of, the fruits of all of the work. And I think people now have really just put their heads down and they're cranking out these new solutions, and it'll be really rewarding to see those make their way into mainstream society. And we are seeing a lot of the institutional players, certainly in the United States, but overseas as well, come into this mix now, and I think that's going to have a big impact too.
Awesome. Yeah. So Kevin has been a long time trusted partner and a friend and advisor for us. So is there any way if anyone out there wants to contact you?
Sure. So the easiest way is Kevin, Kevin, at Jenga Advisors. Can't read that; it's too small. Kevin at jengaadvisors.com.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.